In the 1800s, thousands of runaway slaves and free black Americans traveled along a network of secret routes and safe houses to what is now Ontario. Black settlements and communities were established in and around Windsor, Amherstburg, and Chatham, Kent. But many newcomers also continued farther north to Owen Sound, or Sydenham as it was called at the time, and the surrounding area. They wanted to put a safe distance between themselves and the bounty hunters who kidnapped free blacks along the American border. The area already had black communities, as blacks had settled in the Queen's Bush, as the region was called, as early as the 1820s. And the proximity to the Great Lakes created opportunities for employment on ships, in shipyards, mills, and the timber industry. A tour of the region reveals several locations linked to that past. This red brick house on 11th Street West was built in the 1870s by Francis Mollock, an escaped slave from Maryland. 20 years earlier, Mollock and his brother fled to Canada, aided by Harriet Tubman, the revered conductor of the Underground Railroad. Mollock was also one of the preachers at the British Methodist Episcopal Church. Its original congregation comprised former slaves who fled to Canada before and during the American Civil War. Many of the church members worked seasonally on ships on the Great Lakes, so when they were home, they organized sailors' suppers to raise money for the church. Thomas Henry Miller, the son of a slave, organized the first services for black people in Sydenham and helped to get the first BME church built in the town. The BME members also founded the Emancipation Day Picnic in Harrison Park. It's been held every civic holiday weekend for over 160 years and has evolved into the Emancipation Day Festival. Descendants of those who arrived via the Underground Railroad return to reminisce and enjoy a time of fellowship. This cairn in the park is an homage to those slaves who sought freedom in Canada. The squares of the floor represent quilts with coded messages to slaves traveling to freedom. And the window frames are reminiscent of churches where runaway slaves hid. Religion provided community and a sense of pride, so residents often bonded around churches and religious gatherings. Many, like the Oro African Methodist Episcopal Church, are still dotted around the region. The First Baptist Church is one of 4 churches constructed at the intersection fondly called Salvation Corners. Blacks, including William Henry Harrison, helped to build these churches from locally quarried stone. The Market Building is believed to have been the site of some of the earliest church services for blacks. It was also at this site that Mary Taylor, an escaped slave, settled with her husband, a blacksmith. Granny Taylor, as she was affectionately called, established a restaurant selling pies, oysters, and apples when in season. A quiet corner of the Greenwood Cemetery is the resting place of many of Owen Sound's black citizens, including Thomas Miller and John Daddy Hall. This monument recognizes the more than 1,200 residents buried in Potter's Field, many of whom were the black pioneers. Grey County is evolving, and there is less and less evidence of the vibrant black communities that once thrived there. But historians, heritage groups, and descendants of the early black pioneers will always be around to remind us of its connections to freedom.